Hey, how's it going? Another Friday here, and another update from the garage. And we figured we'd kind of show you what's been going on. You know, on the last update, we had just finished getting the paint stripped off of Kurt's Bug here, and it was looking pretty good in that video. And since then, I've got the video for this project finished that was uploaded here yesterday. And then we did take the car up to the car wash after finishing that video and use the power washer to clean out all the seams just to make sure I've got all the paint stripper removed in case we got any in the seams. In the process of doing that, it got kind of rusty, which, I mean, really just from the car wash to here, it turned pretty brown. So we sprayed it down again with some Osfol, which is just that metal prep. Kind of darkened the metal, stained it up pretty good, and really it looks pretty ugly, but it doesn't matter. All that's going to get cleaned up and sanded off before we go to the primer stage. So, you know, it's going to look bad for a while, but, you know, it is what it is. I've been working pretty steadily on the front clip. In fact, you can see that we've got some sheet metal hung on here. Nothing's been welded, nothing's been final fit, but at least it's on here, and you can kind of see where we're going. These fenders really just don't fit very well, and so I've got a lot of work left to do to get these to line up where I want them to and make sure everything's gonna work well. This quarter panel's still messed up. I still got to fine-tune that to get this back in the right location and get the right shape on it. And then you know, same thing has to happen on the passenger side. But that'll be actually the next video I put out. I thought it was going to be the front valence, but there's so much work going on with these fenders, I figured I'd make that its own video. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming out here next week. And then once the valence is all welded up, then we'll put that video out most likely the week after. Although I said that last week, and we're changing plans. So we just kind of go with the flow here, and every time a problem presents itself, we just deal with that. But at least we're making some headway here. You can see we've got the hood back on, and that itself has some issues. We got to kind of straighten that out. So really, it all kind of happens at the same time here. But we're getting closer to being done with the front of the car here. After I got all the paint stripped off the car, I was happy to find that all of the holes for the trim were not welded shut when this car was painted, you know, back in the 90s. All they did is they actually just put some fiberglass behind it and then bondoed over top of the holes, and that's how they filled them in. And that's great news for us because we are putting the trim back on here, and now I don't have to worry about finding the proper location for these things. So pretty happy to find that. The holes in the hood were welded shut, so I will need to relocate and drill those, but that's easy. You just put holes in the center of the hood, so I'm not too worried about that. As far as the rest of the car, we did do some cleanup on the inside. In fact, let me show you what we did here. If you take a look here, you can see that you know, this whole area was covered in sound deadening insulation, and we got the last bits of that all removed. There's still some adhesive in some spots that we're gonna have to come back and attack again, but for the most part, we got most of that off. Now, you're never gonna see any of this once the car is assembled, so it doesn't have to look great. But I do want to make sure that my new headliner glue actually has a good solid surface to stick to. So we'll come back in and we're going to scrub this down real well. We'll sand everything up, get the surface prepped, and I'm actually going to be painting. I'm just going to be using the same chassis paint that I'm going to be painting the floor pans with and the underside of the car, and we're just going to paint the inside just to give it a good clean substrate for us to be able to glue our new components in, you know, because I've got ideas of where I'm going to be placing new sound deadening material. We need to make sure all the areas where the headliner attaches are clean, and we just wanted a good surface. And I figured before I took this to the car wash to wash out the seams, I would get the inside done so I could hose that off. And you know, it's almost there. A little more work needs to be done, but we're getting there. So now that we've got the inside of the car all cleaned up, at least cleaned up to the point that it's at, that really should make things a lot nicer going forward. We don't have to worry about all the mess that was in there, and it does need one more wipe down because I created some garbage when I did some of my other work. But at least once I do my final cleanup and I get everything sanded, I can go ahead and slap some paint on there and really not have to worry about it anymore. Now, something else that has happened here this week, after I finished recording last week's update, the starter on my Jeep actually went out. You know, our Jeep is a Grand Cherokee. It's got the 5.7 Hemi in it. And so we had to kind of drop everything and get that changed out. And let me tell you, that was quite the job. Normally, you know, changing a starter, at least on everything I've ever owned, is a pretty simple job. This one was it was a nightmare. They have it tucked away in such a way that you can't get to it. We ended up having to take the inner fender liner off to get to the access hole, and I had to use a whole bunch of different wobble extensions to get up onto the bolts. And you know, again, it was a 2.5 hour job to change a starter, and I had help. Had I been doing it by myself, I'm sure it would have taken longer, because you really needed 3 hands to kind of manipulate things. If I ever have to do it again, which I hope I don't, now that I know what's going on, I'm sure it'll be a lot quicker. But you know, again, 2.5 hours out of my day to change a starter keeps me not working on what I want to be working on. But daily drivers, they take priority. Now, another project that just popped up on our radar here, and most likely we'll be working on next week. My previous employer called, and they just bought a brand new lathe. It's a lathe that they use for teaching, and it's just not set up correctly. They can't get anything to run true, and it just needs a whole bunch of setup work. And so I told them I would take it on. Now, I actually have that lathe here because it's just a benchtop lathe, and let me show you what we're going to be working on here. So here's what I've got to work on here. This is actually a Grizzly 7x14 mini lathe. This is just the Sieg lathe. It's the same basic architecture of like the Harbor Freight mini lathe, and the Travers sells one, Enco sells one. There's a whole bunch of different companies that sell the same basic machine. And for the most part, they actually, you know, seem to work okay. Now this one, they're having some trouble with, and it's actually because the spindle and the headstock's not aligned correctly. So if you just machine a short piece, it cuts a really bad taper. And I have my suspicions as far as what's going on, and once we get into some investigation, we'll see if I'm right or not. But this will be a project I have on deck for next week. Now, I'm really thinking this isn't going to take all that long for us to knock out. I figured I'm going to set aside just a couple hours, probably next Tuesday, to take care of this. And all in all, should be a pretty interesting little project. And I am going to be recording it, so you can kind of see everything that I'm doing to get one of these things set up and make it run true and accurate. So be on the lookout for that. I don't know when I'll actually put the video out. We'll get things recorded, and then I'll just, you know, when I have time to get things edited up, then we'll put it out there. But it should be should be a fun one anyway. So that's it. That's our update for the week. You know, you can see we've got a whole bunch of little things going here. A lot of weirdness with this car we need to get taken care of. That lathe, again, that should be a pretty quick little project. And then, you know, just the day-to-day stuff that you got to get done. So really, that's it. That's all I know. So I'm going to let you go here, and until the next one, I'll see you around.